Let's talk about what is going on in London in terms of policing. Why just London? Well, it is the biggest single police force, the Metropolitan Police, and often what happens in London also happens elsewhere. But it was very interesting yesterday to have an interview on Sky News with Trevor Phillips, who is a prominent broadcaster who also happens to be black, who also happens to have taken a lot of stick over the years for when he's done a few documentaries over the years, pointing out some realities about racial disparities and pointing out that in this country they're not always about racism or inequality, they're about different cultural, family norms and other issues, often more to do with economics than anything else. But it was interesting in his interview with Sir Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Police Chief, played out on Sky News yesterday, that the police chief said it is shameful that black boys growing up in London are far more likely to die than white boys. He says we can't pretend otherwise, that we've got a history between policing and black communities where policing has got a lot wrong, and we get a lot more right today, but we do still make mistakes. That's not in doubt. I'm being as relentless in that as it can be. And he said the vast majority of the force are good people. He said, but that legacy, combined with the tragedy that some of this crime falls most heavily in black communities, it creates a real problem because of the legacy. It creates concern. Let's talk about this with Norman Brennan, who's a former police officer. Good morning to you, Norman. I thought what was really, really interesting was that at no point in this conversation, although Trevor Phillips messaged me yesterday to say when I complained about it that he had mentioned this. I watched the interview back twice. He definitely didn't. That these black boys are being killed, but they're being killed at the hands of other black boys. That's worth mentioning, isn't it?
Well, I think, Julia, it's what is called the elephant in the room. Black Londoners make up about 13% of the London population, 13%, but are responsible for 45% of crime in London, 61% of the perpetrators and 53% of black young lads are the victims.
I think that's certain crime, like certain violent street crimes, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's the types of crime that we all talk about. It's gun crime, knife crime, violent crime, robberies, stabbings, shootings, murders. They're the premier crimes in London, where disproportionately young black children are both the offender and victims. Yeah. And that is the elephant in the room that the Commissioner, maybe Trevor Phillips, sort of skimmed round, and what we all know. If something's the truth, we need to confront the truth. Exactly. And it's no good that the Commissioner trying to say that, yes, I'm really concerned. Well, of course, we're really all concerned. But let's tell the public what the truth is and let them know what we should be concerned about.
And when he said it's shameful, it's interesting how many people in response to that clip online were saying, what, are you saying you want more white boys to die to even up? And if we have equal number of white and black boys dying, then that's OK? I mean, of course not. But this is the thing. I've been saying for years, I remember, in a previous incarnation on a previous station more than 10, 12 years ago, saying on air that it was outrageous that a young black boy gets stabbed to death on a housing estate somewhere, and it doesn't even make the front page of the London Evening Standard because it's so normalised. But if it was my, white middle-class daughter, it would be on the front page because we've just said it's OK for this to happen. And that is, to me, that is what is shameful.
Well, that used to be the case, Julia, but I post on homicide, gun and knife crime daily. The majority of stabbings now, even where young girls are the perpetrator, it doesn't get much traction in the media. It's almost as though we've unwillingly accepted that our children and youth will carry knives as routinely as they do a mobile phone, and should they get involved in an interaction or an argument with anyone else, be they another child, an adult, shopkeeper, person in the street, there's a very good likelihood that they will stab that individual or, if in a fight, lose their own life as a result of their own
and we've just said that's normal, but that's such a recent development, and it is absolutely, frankly, as a parent of a teenager, absolutely terrifying development. But a previous caller mentioned, stop and search. Well, previous caller, not caller, I guess Alex Wilson, an Assembly member for Reform in London. He mentioned, the issue of stop and search. We know that stop and search works. We know there's issues in terms of how people treat the people they're stopping and searching. We know there have been some incidents in the past. We know that. However, many, particularly mums in particularly Afro-Caribbean communities where these violent crimes are often rife, are actually desperate for their kids to be stopped and searched to stop them carrying the knives in the first place. And yet the Met Police have massively cut that.
You're absolutely right, Julia. I mean, it'd be fair to say that I'm probably Britain's lead and certainly longest knife campaigner.
Yep.
Served 31 years in the police. As you know, and many other my followers know, I was stabbed in the chest, nearly died arresting a burglar. I know the
Yes.
devastation of knife crime. Let me just tell you what nobody seems to grasp, and this is the government and the criminal justice system. 5 years mandatory sentencing if you carry a knife in a public place without lawful authority or excuse. 3 years if you're a child. It will stop within months or certainly reduce dramatically.
They say they do that, but a tiny fraction of people, even on their second carrying offence, go to prison. We know Axel Rudikabana caught, I think, 6 times with a knife on a bus. Nothing happened.
I totally agree. We also need mass stop and search. You hit upon it and said that there are certain people in the black community, they're community leaders, and certain people in the black community don't like being stopped and searched. Well, I can tell you, I meet the parents of children who have been stabbed to death or shot to death. They don't like their children being shot and stabbed to death and planning funerals rather than bright futures.
Yeah.
We need an education programme. We need mentors. We need personal and parental responsibility.
We need dads.
And more important,
we need dads.
We do. They're always on their toes. I cannot tell the amount of times I took a robber home and I saw mum with 2 or 3 children. And on the route back to the nick, I said to my partner, within another year or 2, once he's an adult, we'll be locking him up and we'll be sending him to prison for years.
Yeah.
What a sad indictment on our criminal justice system and communities, and certainly within the black communities.
Yeah.
That really.
But again, it's the stuff that people don't like to talk about, but actually there are many, many issues going on. There are cultural issues, there are family and normalisation, which need to be talked about. Norman Brennan, you've been an amazing campaigner on this. Former police officer, Norman Brennan, thank you for that.